Aimee Lilly has been doing voiceover and radio drama since college. She played Hattie in the radio version of the Left Behind series, provided the voice of Liz, the main character in the long-running children's radio drama Kids Corner, and the character of Marcelle in the upcoming blockbuster drama called The Titanic Waif. Aimee, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm thrilled to be here.
Absolutely. Now, I have it on good authority that you love action movies and ice cream. Is this true?
Those are both very accurate. Yes.
We can be friends. I thought so, but I just wanted to confirm. And also, this is the kind of hard-hitting questions you can expect from this show, so buckle in. But apart from your work in voiceover and drama, you're also an experienced narrator with over 200 titles to your name. Do I have that right?
Yeah, it's over 230 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in narrating audiobooks?
It actually sprang from my work in radio and radio drama. There was back in the day when the audiobook industry was first taking off, Oasis Audio, which was then Domain Communications, was wanting to get in on the ground floor of the new audiobook trend. And so they put together a stable of 3 men and 3 women and kind of a package of, if you'd like to do your book with us, here's what the cost would be per cassette. And here are 3 men and 3 women. You can choose from each of their voice, from which voice you want. And they asked me if I would like to be one of those women. And I said, well, sure. I don't know really anything about this, but okay, whatever. And so I started with like a couple of single cassette. One was a Hind's Feet on High Places, and one was a biography of Fanny Crosby. And then I progressed to Grace Livingston Hill romances. And it kind of went from there. And so I've done over 100 of the Boxcar children's stories. I've done memoirs and self-help books and a lot of historical romance, and I just finished a book that's a modern day murder mystery that involves trafficking and whatever, set in Nashville. So it just kind of happened, and it's kind of steamrolled, and I've been doing it for 26, almost 27 years.
That's amazing. It's just funny to hear you talk about cassettes, because that's what I listen to, of course.
I know.
But it's just odd. And now my wife said, did you see, this morning she said this, did you see that Walkmans are coming back with cassettes?
Are you serious?
I was like, why?
I mean, really, cassettes were the most fragile media. I don't know why anyone would want to go back to them. They stretched and they tangled and they crinkled. I mean, 8-tracks were better than cassettes.
I tell you, I used to, when I was a kid, I would listen to cassettes as I fell asleep at night. And I still listen to audio when I fall asleep, just not cassettes. But the horror when I would wake up in the morning and find that while I was sleeping, my favorite tape had gotten tangled in the machine. Oh, it was just, and then I would have to try to flatten it out. I would splice it and try to save.
And the pencil.
Horrifying.
Trying to, when it gets caught on something and you're trying to wind it back. Lord, nightmares.
I would try to rewind 2 tapes at once. I'd put one in the machine and rewind, and then I would take another tape, put on the pencil, and twirl it really fast. I got to listen to 2 of these odysseys at once.
The pain that Gen X experienced that others will never know.
Why are you bringing this back? I don't know why. But I've also heard, I have this on pretty good authority as well, I have great sources, that you can narrate an entire book in a weekend.
Oh, yes.
That's astounding to me.
Yeah,
so if I got two finished hours in a day, I feel pretty accomplished.
Yeah, my record was I was in the studio for 12 hours. We got 10 finished hours of audio that day. That was my record. I will never do that again. I didn't think I would survive. But yeah, I just this past weekend I did. It was an 86,000 word book in 2 days, Friday and Saturday.
How do you mean? Yeah, go ahead.
Remember, I've been doing this for 27 years. And I'm told by my engineers that I am, I'm sorry, I'm bumping my table. I'm just, in case you guys wanted to know, I don't have the DTs. I'm just on a very wobbly table.
That's a rumor we can swatch.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now.
You can swatch that one right now. I've been told by my engineers that I am a little unique. Most narrators start off strong, and then the longer they go, the more tired their voice starts to sound, and the more mistakes they start making. I start off a little gravelly and making more mistakes, and then get stronger as I go. And so that one day when I was in there for 12 hours, the engineers were like, "I can't believe this. You don't sound any different." And I was like, well, decades worth of singing and all of this, I have much power. Vocally. But yeah, it's weird. I can't take any credit for that. That's all the Lord. But I'm grateful for the fact that he has given me that little quirk, and I can just keep powering through. I may get sick of my voice. Anyone in the building is going to be sick of my voice by the time the day is over, but we can power through the book. So
are there any tips you use to maintain focus? Because I know that narrating, especially like fiction narrating, sometimes you're in the story, you're taking all these emotions within yourself. That's can be exhausting as well. Are there anything that you do to maintain that focus? I
make sure that I break frequently. So we break at least at the end of every chapter, and just stop and look away. But it's also, it's a matter of, if you know the material well enough, then it makes it easier. I try never to do books without pre-reading them. I did that. I got caught just a few weeks ago where there was a book that I hadn't completely pre-read, and we ran into an issue, and I was like, we have there's an issue here, which throws you completely out of the whole process, because you're having to try to think through, how do I address this? How do we, adjust for this? Sure. So as long as I know what we're doing going in, that makes it a lot easier. But it's, as you know, it is an exhausting process. It's funny how often people will say, "Oh, it sounds like so much fun. I would love to do that." Yeah. And so just this week, I described it to someone as, you're sitting alone in usually a relatively chilly room, and in a pretty uncomfortable chair, having to talk for hours on end with perfect enunciation, perfect posture, and always constant breath support, with someone on the other side of a thick pane of glass in a more comfortable chair, pointing out every time you make a mistake,
judging you.
So yes, so that's audiobook narration in a nutshell. Yeah. Also with weird voices.
Right. Well, speaking of prep work, I remember one time I ran into a character who had an accent that wasn't mentioned until...
Oh, no.
I don't know when. I mean, yes, prep work should have caught it, but sometimes you could miss it even then. If it's just a tiny
absolutely.
Little reference,
Yeah, I know. I've done books where we're halfway through and I'm like, oh, he's from the South. Right.
Oops.
Okay.
How important
He's a transplant.
Right. Funny. Well, you've played a lot of different roles, a lot of different shows, everything from, as I mentioned, Hattie Durham to the character of Liz. What's your favorite type of character to play?
The one I don't get to do very often, which is Wicked, the bad guys. Hattie was naughty, but not necessarily the bad guy. She was more foolish. I once got to play a seductress who then, it was kind of a King Arthur type tale. So I was a seductress who then became a venomous serpent and bit the hero. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's, that's not, come to think of it, I wouldn't necessarily say that I have a favorite, because I've been fortunate. There have been some characters that I've played where I didn't enjoy it, but there have been so many that I have loved to play. I loved playing Liz, even though that voice was murder. Doing this for 8 hours on a Saturday is just exhausting.
I wanted to ask you to do that, but I didn't know if you would want to do it.
Oh, that's never a problem. I can always do it. I'm a 10-year-old boy. I can always talk. So, and I loved it, but that was, like I said, it was completely exhausting doing that voice. But I've gotten to play mothers and nurses. I was often cast as authority figures because of the voice. So, I'm a very good mom voice and teacher voice and nurse, doctor, newscaster. those are always fun, but then also doing the ones where there's kind of a quirk or like a Valley Girl. I love like doing like teenagers and Valley Girls and stuff like that because it's so much fun to do this because it's like, I had to try to untangle cassette tapes like all the time, dude. So it's just, it's always fun to bring something new and to try something new and to try a new voice or a new accent or just find something in it that you can grab onto and just kind of make your own. But I will say that playing the bad guys is always a lot of fun.
Well, this sort of leads into my next question. Now you play Marcelle in the upcoming blockbuster drama called the Titanic Waif. I'm going to do that every time. But that's a very emotional role. I was in the recording sessions and tears abounded. But how do you prepare yourself for that kind of emotional role, and how do you dig deep enough to find that?
I have a tendency in real life to have my emotions relatively close to the surface, which it can be both a good and a bad thing. It's very easy. I'm very easily wounded. But I also am very open about how I feel. And there's almost never a question of knowing where you stand with me because my emotions are right here. Mm-hmm. And so it's easy for me to just tap into what I'm already feeling. The pain that I've experienced or the anguish or angst, because they're usually kind of writing right there anyway. But when it's something that I have actually experienced, betrayal or loss or grief or rage, then it's easy honestly, for me, it might not be for everyone, but for me, it's easy to remember how I actually felt when I experienced whatever triggered that, and then just tap into those emotions. I've been referred to by others as a very moist crier in radio drama, which I am. I actually cry real tears, and then I'm like, okay, I need a Kleenex, but it's the thing that I love about radio drama. One of the many things that I love about radio drama is that I don't have to worry about what my face looks like, whether my mascara is running, whether I'm communicating accurately with my hands or, my facial expressions. I can just feel what needs to be felt and let it come out in my voice. And so I can be very real and very authentic in that without feeling self-conscious, because it's creating the scene for people to put in their imagination. And because if I can imagine it and I can live it out, then other people can imagine it. It can be real in their imaginations. And so all of that just kind of helps me to just dive into where I am and how I feel and what I've experienced, and then relive that for whoever's listening on the other end.
It's fascinating. That part has always been more difficult for me, and I had an acting coach tell me to, next time I experience these emotions in real life, to notice where I experience them. Like, for example, when I get angry, she's like, I feel it right here. Like, where in your body you're feeling it, and then remember that and recall that to try to get back. And that's helped me somewhat. But yeah, that's just so fascinating, because I know like people like you and other people of your caliber, they do have these emotions at their disposal, and it's such a powerful tool.
You wouldn't necessarily think it was a powerful tool if you were having to spend time with me in person. You might at that point become a little exhausted. However, it is helpful when I'm acting.
Sure. No, I don't buy that for a minute. You answered this, I guess, in a little bit, but you obviously love audio drama. What is so special about that medium beyond some of the stuff that you have mentioned already? We
have lost our ability to have imagination in this culture. We have lost our grip and our understanding of what it means to have a healthy imagination, to be able to, kids, because, and I'm not blaming, screen time is screen time. I spend far too much time on a screen, but I grew up reading, and I was a am, and I still am, a passionate and voracious reader. And I would create the whole world of the book I was reading in my head. Imagination was something that was so important when I was a kid, and we are raising generations, and my generation is to blame because it was the Xers. It's our kids that are at the forefront of the inability to focus. We're the MTV generation. We're the shortened attention span theater, But in so doing, in the advent of computers becoming everywhere and endemic, and smartphones and screens and streaming, and not even having to wait through commercials, we've lost the ability to just imagine. And so one of the things that I love about audiobooks, and especially radio drama, is it helps the listener to regain that magic of imagination. They can picture me however they want. And it's funny, people often say, "Oh, you don't look anything like your voice." And I've gotten, my favorite is somebody told me, "Oh, you're a lot taller than you sound on the radio." And I was like, "I'm 5'6". How short do I sound?" And she went and walked away. That was the whole conversation. And to this day, I was like, "Thank you." I think,
how do I take it?
Yeah. But we who have been doing this for so many years, we picture people wrong. But that's okay. We don't have to know what those people look like. The key is you use your imagination to create the visuals of what you're hearing. And I think it's so powerful. And also too, it gets down deep into the emotions, because when it's being acted out on screen in front of you, it's someone else feeling it. But when you're only hearing it and you're visualizing it in your own brain, it becomes part of who you are. It maps different neural pathways, it maps different emotional pathways, and you start to be able to grow and to deepen in your own knowledge and thought processes and emotional depth, just because you're picturing yourself in those scenes in a way that you don't when you're seeing it acted in front of you. One of the things I love about doing the Boxcar Children audiobooks is that there are so many children who are learning to read along with me reading to them. And so, and Kids Corner taught a whole generation of kids how to imagine things, and the excitement of the imagination, the energy, audio input straight into the imagination, and I love that. I love the fact that we can influence people for the good, regardless of generation, just by spurring them on to be able to develop this God-given gift of thinking and imagining and creativity. I'm a little passionate about this. Sorry.
No, I'm on the same page with you. I think you're so right, because I love movies, but there has never been a TV show or a movie that has ever grabbed my attention like some of the old radio shows did.
Yes.
Even some of the ones back early when, production values weren't amazing. There's still to this day a chord of music or a certain sound effect that conjures up an entire world in my head because it's associated with that. It's such a powerful medium. But
yeah.
Absolutely. But I think that, that's a perfect place to end it. Aimee, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're so welcome.
I appreciate your time.
Oh, I love this, and I'm honored to be a part of the blockbuster radio drama, The Titanic Waif, and to have been able to just spend these couple of minutes. This was wonderful. Thank you for inviting me, Craig.
Thanks so much.